Tony, I thought it'd be really lovely to just get you to introduce yourself. So who are you
Mm.
and what is it that you do?
So I am, well, my name is Tony Ting, and I'm an architect who became a human resources person 31 years ago. So it's been a long time, and I guess the reason why I've always liked personnel management in those days, and then HR, and now it's called people and culture. I think it's because I kind of like building. I kind of like people who draw the buildings rather than the building itself. I like that the people, the way they think, the way they design, what goes into a design, more so than the design itself. And I remember when I was talking to the guy who actually got me into HR, he said to me, I know you're an architect. We don't hire architects, but I just love the way you engage with people. So I think there's room for you here in the company. And that was oil and gas. That was the oil and gas industry when I first got in. So it was totally different industry to design. And after 30 years, I finally managed to marry the two together and have do people and culture at an architecture firm.
Love it. It's a full circle moment for you.
It is a full cycle, yes. And I've come back. So I guess maybe it is a time when I start considering I'm going to retire and this is my last role. I don't know. You never know, right? You never say never.
Yeah.
But I am enjoying what I'm doing. And I've always loved HR. I've always loved engaging. And I've always loved building communities. And also that moment, you know how it is in talent acquisition, that moment when you say to someone, I've got your role for you, you've got the job. And it's like almost saying you've got a life, you've got a livelihood, and you can support your family. That moment when
Yeah.
you tell them that. Is that euphoric or what? That's the best moment, isn't it? When you give them the good news.
100%, Tony. Like this is landing for me in such a big way. Like I take this role that I do in talent acquisition recruitment so much reverence because we literally have the ability to change people's lives and like that impact that you get to see in real time. Like I haven't
Mhm.
experienced that in any industry and like I've lived a couple of lives before recruitment. It's just
Play.
truly remarkable.
Hmm. It's for some people, it's like they're winning the lottery.
Yeah.
That's the closest I can get to,
Yeah.
because all of a sudden you've got something to work towards. You've got something to wake up in the morning for, and you've got a role that you go to, and at the end of the fortnight or the month, you've got pay coming in, and you say, with my pay, I can feed my family, I can do things. I can use that money. And that moment when they actually receive a contract and they sign on it. Some people it takes them 48 hours to click, and then they I know what I've got. And some people straight away say, yes, thank you very much. It's those moments that makes it worthwhile to be in our industry.
100%, 100%. I love that. I love that. So Tony, I'd love to just understand from your perspective, like what have you seen? Like you're a veteran, you've been in the industry for a very long time. I'd just love to understand like what are some of the things that you've seen in your industry, in your space, in the mental health space?
I think mental health, it is broad in a sense. There's so many different facets of mental health. In Australia, most recently in the last 12 months, there's been a big push on psychosocial hazards in the workplace. So there's a lot of education, a lot of information about what constitutes psychosocial hazards. And sometimes it's all the silent ones. Toxicity is normalized when it's silent. When people just sit there and get bombarded with information as a one-way street coming in, and they feel that they don't have a voice to say it, to speak up. That and then they normalize that. And I think we're at a point now where we should tell people, look, if there's something that you're not happy with, not comfortable with, you have to voice it. Everyone has a voice no matter what. Say it out, and companies as well. They say, oh, psychosocial, yeah, we got well-being classes, we got pizza Friday nights. That's not really well-being. That's not really psychosocial hazards. Psychosocial hazards is in the people, the managers, the leaders. I'm always reminded of this difference between managers and leaders, right? Leaders are the one that actually set examples. They lead by doing what is required, and they lead their team in doing what's required. So they are the ones who say, hey, there's a right way to do this, there's a proper way to do this, follow me, we'll do it. And people respond to that. Whereas managing is more like standing there going, you do this, you do that, and delegating it. And that doesn't work. That's old school. I
Yeah.
remember back in the day when I started, yeah, that was managing 101. But nowadays, it doesn't work that way. It's all leading. Leadership is important. People, what's the saying? People don't leave companies, they leave people.
Yeah.
lead their leaders, right? And
100%.
if you have a great leader who understands what psychosocial hazards are, who understands what it means for people to enjoy their work, to understand what they have to do, they will respond. They
Yeah.
will be better. In it's a common thread. I don't think it's just Australia. I think the whole maybe globally it's a thing. You know, leaders, as long as leaders understand and can lead properly with the right EQ, with the right attitude, the right aptitude, people will follow and people will understand, this is what it means to be a leader, and they will grow to be that.
So you mentioned something which is a really critical word here in this space of psychological safety. You said safety, right? Now, how many times do people in the workplace not feel safe and therefore they don't feel that they can actually voice their concerns?
Mhm.
You've encountered scenarios like that and like,
Absolutely. Previously, I've encountered so many different cases where staff would rather resign and leave instead of voicing, saying, there's an issue with my manager or there's an issue with this department, that department. They say, I don't feel safe. I don't feel I have the right to voice it. So I'm going to resign. I'm going to move elsewhere. It's easier for me to resign and go somewhere else.
yeah.
Yeah. And when you question them in your field, when you question them for interviews, what's the first question they ask? What kind of leaders do you have in your client?
What is your culture like?
What's the culture like? Yeah. I remember when I came to this job, there were two words that got me to sign a contract here. No ego. I actually asked the question, what's the culture like in this organization? And it's an organization where you got it's a private company with owners and principals and senior associates and architects. And I asked the question, what's it like working here? And the principal who was interviewing me said to me, there's no ego here. And that was all I needed, because ego translates into so many different levels. And you think, okay, if someone has ego, they're gonna need to stamp their authority. When they stamp their authority, it means there's some words, there's some ways they do things, which is gonna say, do it my way, do it that way. And for her to say, there's no ego here, that was like, that was such a relief.
You can
And then when I
almost
came,
breathe, like your shoulders come down and you can almost breathe.
exactly. And then when I came on board, they started talking about this thing called Practice 2.0. I said, ooh, what's Practice 2.0?
Why is that?
Practice 2.0, in essence, the principle said, was tipping the pyramid upside down. So instead of having a normal hierarchy where the leader stands on top, say, right, we're going to do this, we tip it upside down where the leader goes, tell me what I need to do. And that was such a big call. And we said, in architecture, a lot of architecture is always the seasoned architect, the practicing, the owners of the company who are seasoned, recognized figures in architecture saying, well, I've done this before, we're going to do exactly the same thing here, we're going to do exactly the same there. This is our trademark. Rather than now, I know we did it before. Can we do that better?
Well,
Can we have a manifesto here, and one of the things they talk about is working ugly. It means everybody's got ideas, throw them on the table, and we're going to use that and map out a new way of design.
yeah, so,
And I
so
think that's great.
very collaborative, very supportive.
It makes the organization very flat.
Mhm.
And it gives power to people, saying, you're new, you come from university, you've got ideas, you come from overseas, you've got ideas, share them with us. Let's form something new. We don't have to follow the old way of design. We follow a brand new way of design. And that is very, very powerful. And even in Asian countries, you've got Asian cultures, right? You've got Asian cultures where they taught about, growing up, you respect your elders, respect your parents. Whatever they say, you say, yes, whatever I can, I'll do. Yes, 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 that. We even try to break that, because we got people from different cultures coming in, and they're so used to that kind of thinking. We said, right, we need to do this design. Okay, no, it's not okay.
Yeah.
When I say we need to do this design, you have
Challenge
to
that.
tell me
Yeah.
design what? Challenge, yeah.
Is there a problem we're trying to solve with this design? Like, why are we going to do this?
Exactly. Why can't we have a swimming pool that acts as a fire extinguisher type water tank? Why do we need a separate? Those kind of thinking. Why do we have to draw a square box? We don't need to draw a square box. Those kind of design thinking. And what have you seen in your travels that you would like to adopt in design? You were in Hong Kong, you were in Doha. What design there that we can influence?
Yeah.
Bring it across. So everyone nowadays, the first few months, they're getting used to it. But after a while, they say, oh, this is so cool. I know when there's a design brief coming in, we just go to the table, we just throw designs on the table and see what happens. And then one day it makes the master plan, makes the full design. Someone goes, that was my idea. It's actually being built.
Yeah,
That kind of
Isn't that
We
wonderful?
want it's so wonderful, and we want that methodology to expand. So that's the Rothy Loman, my company, Rothy Loman 2.0 practice, and we're going to expand that across to the other industry. And that hopefully is how we will improve culture in
Yeah.
the organization.
Love that. So Tony, you mentioned something which is also something that I'm really interested in. I want to unpack
Mm.
a little bit more. So we're both Asians. Asia is a big continent,
Yeah.
and every different country in Asia has its own nuance and its own kind of mannerisms and behaviors. I want to kind of challenge that notion a little bit. And I feel that as Asians, we have this underlying value system that kind of bind and bridge us and bring us together.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I was reflecting on, which is what I want to unpack with you, is the way we're raised, right? To be this like obedient and polite and like, don't make too much noise. I mean, I grew up in a
Don't complain. Just work hard.
I grew up in a very strict South Asian environment as a
Yeah.
female. Like, what you want doesn't matter. Like, you
Mm.
will be seen but not heard. When we, as individuals, we're growing up in this kind of programming,
Yeah.
right? And we, take that programming with us subconsciously or consciously into the workplace. How does that show up, do you think?
I mean, there will always be voices in our head, whether from our aunties, our grandparents, or someone that says, hey, just endure a bit more. Don't complain. Just work harder. And when they bring that in, it's great in a way, but then you as people of culture, we have to start breaking those walls. So we say to them, all right, what is it that you're enduring? Can you reflect on that? Can you reflect on that and reset? Endurance is not about, it's not about suffering.
Suffer, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's about strategy. You tell me what's your strategy now. How do you break that? I mean, I don't want you to say yes. What's your strategy for saying no? What's your strategy for asking for feedback? I mean, one of the things we have here is performance appraisals, performance feedbacks. And some cultures, they'll fill out the form, they'll come in for a discussion, and all they want to hear is, you're doing great job. Yay, yeah, you're doing great job. They say, great. And then a few weeks later, how do I get my salary increase? How do I get my raise? And then it's, oh, actually, to get this, you have to do this, that. Right, why did you tell me that earlier? So now I'm trying to coach some of the managers who are also culturally inherent to say, right, don't just say you're doing a good job. Don't just say everything's rose. Give them critical feedback, honest feedback. You're doing well, but you can improve here. Or you're doing well, and there's this and this and this that you can do. That's the kind of feedback people want, because then they say, I have an idea where I need to get to. Yeah. So those are the kind of sentiments that you hear all the time. And you try to say, right, how can you be different and challenge that?
So, okay, so the next thing I want to get your take on is communication. Now, again, this
Mhm.
is something that I want to link back to the Asian culture and
Yeah.
the way we've been raised, and it's this thing that's ingrained in our psyche almost of like, be polite, be polite, be polite. Don't own what you need or what you want, or like how to ask for what you want and need. If that is how we're conditioned, at what stage are we going to learn how to unpack that? Is that going to be in the workplace? Like, is that work that we need to start doing ourselves? Do we start needing to go to, I don't know,
Well,
do we go to,
I think a lot of things we preach nowadays, or we tell people nowadays, is you have to learn and reflect on yourself, right? Now, going back to communication, I remember when I was a consultant, I used to have this big banner that was done. I mean, just had one word, and I wrote it up. And every time I go to a consultant meeting or a client meeting, right, I said, right, I can solve the problem. I can solve all your issues. You can just pay me now, and it'll take me 5 minutes. And I just unroll this banner. And all it said on this banner was communicate. That's all. I just unrolled. I said, all you need to do, guys, is just communicate. Then the problems will be solved. And everyone was nodding. Everyone's nodding. And then you sort of start unpacking that. What does communication mean? What does it mean to give someone the agency to voice their
that's the
opinion?
word, agency. Yes.
Absolutely, absolutely, right. What is it that they need? It's not permission. You got to start with saying, you don't need permission to say things. You have the right. You have the agency to just voice whatever culture you come from. Say it. And that is the tipping point. The number of people that actually say easier said than done.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. No, no,
Hmm.
I mean, I love that. I was just, as I've been going through my journey, I've just been reflecting, and now I'm consciously trying to participate in workshops where, we're being coached
Yeah,
on communication and how
yeah.
it's so critical to do, communication effectively. How does this show up with managers in the workplace? Because, so many times we're hearing about toxic workplaces, and essentially what it is it's a conflict between a manager and their team. What would happen if this communication and maybe training our managers better to communicate, to look after their people, how would this
Hmm.
change in the workplace if
Interesting point you touch on training managers.
Mhm.
Um, I often wondered, you send managers for training courses, they get theory, and then they come back, and then you compare what they learn in theory to how they act the next day. You don't see much difference in how they were acting before training. So I think the important thing is how they get immersed into real life situations. So rather than training, you probably want to do an audit with you
Mm.
sit there and say, right, okay, you're engaging with your staff. Let me observe how you're engaging with your staff today and see whether you have done something, improve on it. And you find that if you observe that, if you do that kind of audit, you will see more improvement. You'll see real life improvement of managers. If you just lead them and say, yeah, been to this training, right? Now do it. They won't do it. So you got to lead them to it. Of course, there are some managers who are willing to, but then they fall back into their old
Pattern.
habits when their old pattern when they're not comfortable, the insecurities come through. Yeah, so these are managers who struggle. So the only thing you can do is, I don't know, continue to reaffirm and saying that was a good job, keep doing that, and keep going on that.
Do you in your organization help to kind of coach and train managers?
We have two programs in a year, one for the senior staff and one for the mid-level managers, where a facilitator comes in, rolls out 10-step, 12-step strategy on how to be better managers. And then there is an immersive workshop for them to understand what they need to do, role play it, and then I will sit in and observe what they do and
Wow.
see whether they've actually used it in real life. And then sometimes we do 360 feedbacks to staff. Has the manager been effective? And the managers have to have that confidence and say, right, I'm happy to go in for 360. And then we'll find out. And some of them are not. Some of them says, oh, can we postpone it 6 months?
Oh, wow. So they get the option to say whether they're,
They say they're not ready. They're
wow.
not ready. And that's the beauty of it. They're being honest.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
being honest. And even when staff are about to be promoted to managers, they get the chance to say, right, are you sure you're ready to be a manager?
yeah.
And they say, yeah, I've been doing this, and I'm already sort of leading, I'm already questioning, and I'm already getting feedback. I say, okay, let's see how it works in action. So we do that in action. So we
Oh,
do that in real time.
I love that. I love that. Yeah. I really like how you're nurturing your people at your organization, Tony.
That's the